Introduction to System Architecture Security, an overview of the key concepts, principles, and practices that secure system architectures in computing environments. Overview of Windows System Security. Windows systems are widely used as PC operating systems, and they require security management in various areas, such as account and password management, access control, system security, service security, monitoring, and other security management. Account and password management. Checks related to accounts, such as unnecessary accounts, accounts with a administrator privilege, checks related to passwords, such as vulnerable passwords, encryption, automatic account login in case of password error, account password usage period, and etc. Access control. Access control setting checks, such as shared folders, remote registry access, and automatic screen locks, and etc. System security. Privilege setting checks, such as system directory privilege, Windows account privilege, system utilization rates, and etc. Service security. Service shutdowns, such as unnecessary services, terminal service, anonymous FTP, S&M settings, and etc. Monitoring. System audit policies, log record settings, and etc. Other security management. Security settings, scheduling details, antivirus use status, and latest patch checks. Account and password management. Deleting guest accounts and unnecessary accounts. Restrict the use of guest accounts. If accessed by unspecific individuals is required, general user accounts, not guest accounts, should be created and used. The account lockout policy should be checked and set to respond to the brute force attack or password crack attack by setting the account locks according to the number of logon failures in the security policy settings to improve system security, by setting account locks according to the number of logon failures in the security policy settings to improve system security. It is desirable to set account lockout duration to 60 minutes, account lockout threshold to 5 times, and reset account lockout counter after to 60 minutes in account lockout policy. Access control. Checking unnecessary shared folders and stopping sharing. Since malware and viruses may spread through unnecessary shared folders should be removed. If a shared folder needs to be used, only authorized users should be allowed to access the shared folder. Also check the shared folder and stop sharing if unnecessary. System security. If the automatic logon function is used, an attacker can check the login account and password in the Windows registry using hacking tools. Therefore, the automatic logon function must be disabled by setting the auto-admin logon value in the Windows registry to 0. Checking startup programs. Startup programs include the programs that are executed when the computer boots. However, malware can copy its code in this folder so that it is executed when the computer starts. Therefore, delete any unauthorized or unnecessary programs from the startup programs. Service security. Unnecessary services should be stopped because unnecessary system services can be installed and executed by default, and these services can become a security vulnerability in the system, or they can waste system resources. It is recommended not to use the service installed by default or the services that are not used for specific purposes. The system administrator should accurately identify the purpose of the target system and remove unnecessary services. Checking the terminal service. Remote desktop services is a tool used to manage remote servers. However, if a weak password is used or access controls is not adequate, it can be exploited as a hacking tool, whether unnecessary remote desktop services is used or not. If remote desktop services is used, the encryption level should be set to medium or higher. Unix-like system security information extraction. Overview of Unix-like system security. Unix-like operating systems, which are widely used as a server operating system, include Unix and Linux-like operating systems. Security management is needed in various areas, such as account and password management, access control systems, access control, system security, service security, monitoring, and other security management. Unix-like system security. Account and password management. Checks related to accounts, such as unnecessary accounts, accounts with a root privilege, checks related to passwords such as vulnerable passwords, encryption, automatic account locks in case of password error, maximum password usage period, and etc. Access control, privilege setting checks such as user environment settings, key directories and files, boot scripts, and etc. Service security, service shutdown, unnecessary services, NFS settings, anonymous FTP, SNMP settings, and etc. System security, access setting checks, such as access by the approved PC or user, remote access encryption, session end time, and etc. Unix-like system security, monitoring, log recording settings, CPU file system reuse rate checks, other security management, access warning messages, scheduling content, latest patch checks, account and password management, deleting unnecessary accounts. In many cases, accounts created by default when installing the OS or package use default passwords. Accounts that are not deleted by the system, as well as suspicious accounts, should be deleted because they can be exploited for the password guessing attack. In general, system accounts that do not require login should be prohibited from logging in. Checking the account that uses a vulnerable password. In general, if a password that is easy to guess is set for an account, unauthorized users can access the system. A password should be set using a combination of 8 or more letters, numbers, and special characters that are not the same or similar to the account name. Access control, allowing access to authorized systems only. The inetd daemon executes the Internet Service daemon, which is an internal program registered in etc. intint.conf when requested by the external network. If the access right of intint.com are incorrectly set, unauthorized persons can register a malicious program in this file and execute it with root privileges. Therefore, include those who will be allowed to access in the etc. host.allow and include those who will be denied in the etc. host.deny file. Setting session idle timeout. If a timeout is not set for a session that is in use, it may cause problems, both in confidentiality and availability. Therefore, the connected session should be set in a way that is blocked from the server in question, if not used for a specific period of time. System security, setting privileges to the user's default profile. The /etc/profile file is a login script for setting the default use environment of all logged-in users. If the access right of the /etc/profile is set incorrectly, unauthorized users can cause a breach incident by changing the user environment using various methods. Therefore, remove the writing privileges for the /etc/profile from the users other than the root bin. Setting unmask. To check the unmask setting details of the current user, run the unmask command at the command prompt. The unmask value should be set to 027 or 022. If the unmask value is set to 027, a file is created with the access rights of rwr --. And if the unmask value is set to 022, a file is created with the access rights of rwrr. Therefore, the unmask value should be set to 022, so as not to allow unnecessary access. Stopping unnecessary services. If unnecessary service ports are open, it can cause security vulnerabilities. Therefore, unused services should be removed. Table 34 shows a list of daemon services and service ports that should be checked for stopping. So this is table 34. So this is item and detailed item. Restricting the use of anonymous FTP and using secure FTP. Anonymous FTP allows a malicious user to obtain information about the system. Since various attacks can be made if writing permissions is set in the directory, the use of anonymous FTP should be restricted by the settings. The use of anonymous FTP should be restricted by setting it in such a way that only necessary users can gain access. Also, secure FTP should be used, rather than FTP with weak security. By using general FTP, by using anonymous FTP, or by setting up an account there are security vulnerabilities, such as the transmission of user authentication information in plain text without encryption, and security vulnerabilities of the FTP protocol itself. That is, FTP can acquire account privileges by exploiting the authentication vulnerability of the account login, and by applying a brute force attack or a sniffing attack. Therefore, when creating an FTP program for sending and receiving files, an SFTP server should be installed and an SFTP client program should be written.